Hey guys, this is Samsung's best 4K TV for 2021, the QN90A series. This TV has Neo QLED technology that allows it to look almost as good as OLED in my tests, and that's high praise. How does Samsung do it? Let's take a look. So the key here is mini LED. That's right, the LEDs behind the TV screen here are 40 times smaller, Samsung says, than a standard LED, and that means they can pack more of them in there and get a more precise illumination. We'll get to the benefits of all that in the picture quality section soon, but I'll just leave you with this. This is the first time Samsung has used mini LED in its TVs, and wow, you can really tell the difference. I'm going to start with design, however. This is a typically very sleek looking Samsung television. This TV is a 65-inch size. There's also a 50, 55, 75, and whopping 85-inch in the series. And they do cost a couple $100 less than OLED, but really in the same ballpark if you're in this high end of the market. So the design. This TV has a super slick bezel around the edge. The picture goes right up to that edge. There's a tiny little Samsung logo, but the biggest thing I like is the stand. So this is a nice small footprint, kind of centralized, and the way that it's designed, it sort of floats the panel above my credenza here, so it has that nice sort of floaty look that, again, kind of suspends the panel. So really cool. You look at it from the side, you can see that it's sort of a cup shape, a C shape seen from the side, again, to hold this panel up. Another cool thing about the back of this TV, there are these channels you can run along the back to hide the wires and kind of keep a nice clean look overall. Of course, a lot of people in this price bracket are going to wall mount, so that actually helps there too. Of course, seen from the side, this TV isn't going to be as thin as an OLED television. Those are really, really thin. This TV has a full array local dimming backlight, so a little bit thicker, but hey, who watches TV from the side anyway, right? You can also connect an optional Logitech webcam for features like video chat and, yes, fitness tracking. Seen here when I first demoed Samsung's new TVs for CES. So what else is new for 2021? Well, Samsung put a solar panel on the remote. You flip it over, you can actually charge this thing, Samsung says, using standard indoor lighting or sunlight, of course. I really didn't test that, I'll be honest with you. The remote had plenty of juice for the couple weeks that I've had it to test, but you can also plug in a USB-C right in here if you want to top off the battery. Of course, the main benefit to this remote, it's rechargeable, so you don't need to replace the batteries constantly, which again helps the environment. In the hand, I really like the feel of this remote. Really slick design, typical Samsung again, really simplistic controls, easy to use. I also like that the shortcuts to Netflix, Amazon Video, and even Samsung's own TV Plus system are nice and discreet, not those garish colors with the logos you see on a lot of other remotes. So let's pop into the menu system here. Again, not much has changed this time. You see along the bottom here, you have Samsung's standard menu system that pops up when you hit the home key. The apps are arranged nicely. You can rearrange them how you want. You can see also that I've put some connected devices here toward the front, so my Roku, my Xbox, easy to get to. You can scroll over here, you get into more advanced features. For example, that's Samsung's App Store. You can search from here, access Samsung Smart Things, which is their smart home feature, jump right to a different input, and of course go to advanced settings, which includes picture settings. Again, you can just pop right up, play with those really easily. It's nice to have this kind of design right here and have it all running in the foreground while you have whatever you're watching in the background. I prefer that to menu systems that take up the entire screen. Now, one thing that is missing from this TV, it doesn't have Dolby Vision, so that HDR format is available on a lot of the competition. Samsung still doesn't include it, so when you go into apps where you connect a device, you won't have Dolby Vision as an option. I don't consider that a huge deal breaker, however, because this TV performs really well without needing that HDR format. Still works fine with HDR10 and HDR10+. Another extra built into this TV is voice assistants. Yes, you get the choice of 3, Samsung's own Bixby, or Amazon Alexa, or Google Assistant. You can use those just from pressing the mic button on the remote, or new for this year, you can use a wake word, Alexa. And there she is, comes right up without having to touch the remote. You can turn that always on, always listening feature off if you'd like to. Another new addition for 2021 is something Samsung's calling the Game Bar. So gamers out there who want to get access to instant stats will appreciate just holding down on the play key We'll get this game bar to pop up on the bottom. It'll show you frames per second in real time, which is pretty cool. Variable refresh rate status, and even whether you're in the right input lag connection. Also, the TV has an ability to jump right into the game menu from there and play around with deeper settings. Now, Samsung's game mode isn't quite as extensive as the one found on LG OLED, but it's still pretty cool, and again, having the instant access to those stats, really nice. Of course, on the Q90A, you do get top-notch gaming features, including 4K 120Hz input, as well as variable refresh rate, which includes FreeSync from AMD, and auto game mode. So plug in a game console, it'll flip right to the game mode. Worked really well in my testing with an Xbox Series X. So speaking of gaming, one of my comparisons was using an Xbox to feed this Samsung next to an LG OLED and a Vizio television. The results were really good. The Samsung had excellent picture quality in game mode, didn't have quite the contrast and theatricality that I saw on the OLED TV. The game mode here favored bringing up the details in the shadows a little bit more, but the brightness was there. The extra picture brightness, especially with gaming and HDR, really pops on this TV compared to an OLED model. And that extra brightness is the story as well with standard video, not just games. Let's talk about how that works now. In a nutshell, this Samsung is the best non-OLED TV I've ever tested, and in a lot of ways, it's actually better than an OLED TV. I'll start with brightness. In my measurements, this thing measured about 1600 nits in its most accurate picture mode. That's about twice as much as I got out of the brightest television I've ever tested from OLED. That's LG's G1, which I compared this TV directly to. In those comparisons, that brightness really showed up, especially in areas that were brighter overall. For example, a white area or some skies. Things like that really allowed the technology of the mini LED to shine through and overcome the brightness of the OLED. So lots of TVs can get brighter than OLED, but the key to the QN90A's performance was its excellent black levels that weren't really affected that much by blooming at all. So blooming is where you can get stray illumination that plagues full array local dimming TVs I've seen from other manufacturers. This one, however, really didn't have that issue. The black stayed nice and deep even in the darkest areas. Now compared to OLED, yes, it did look slightly more washed out in mixed scenes because this thing can't perfectly control that blooming because this is not a pixel level dimming like OLED. But it gets really, really close, and again, you have that extra impact and brightness of the higher light levels. This TV is superb in a bright room, much brighter than OLED, and again, if you have a lot of light streaming into your environment, you're really going to get a lot of mileage out of the QN90A. In a couple other areas though, OLED continued to win. For example, off-angle viewing, when I sat far to the side, the image did wash out relatively quickly on the Samsung compared to the OLED, which remained pretty perfect. Again, off-angle, very good for an LCD, but can't compete with OLED. I also noticed a little bit more uniformity issues on the Samsung, brighter areas in some areas of the screen, but again, super subtle. Another TV I used in my comparisons was a Vizio PX. It actually measured brighter than the Samsung, but it didn't have the same kind of contrast and pop. It had a little bit more blooming, and the black levels were raised. Again, its backlight wasn't quite as precise as on the Samsung. So the Samsung QN90A is a similar price to OLED TVs, a little bit less expensive, but they're in the same ballpark. So the question is, which one would I rather watch? If I had to pick one, I'd still go with OLED. Its extra contrast puts it over the edge, and the off-angle icing on the cake. However, if I had a brighter room, the QN90A would be my pick. This TV again shines so bright, that great HDR impact, still very solid, and if for some reason you don't want an OLED TV, this is really as close as you're gonna get. That's a quick look at Samsung's QN90A. I'm David Katzmeyer from CNET.